Good morning, students. Yeah, we are starting this fourth unit today. It has two topics. The two major topics that would be covered in this fourth unit are input-output organization and memory organization. Okay, so the first chapter, input-output organization. So here, the computer for performing any operation, right, it need to get the data for performing the operation from the outside environment. Okay, data is given by the user, and to perform some operations on the data, the instructions are also given by the user from the outside environment. So the devices that makes up all these for the computer to take input from the outside environment, and after the processing to show the output, okay, show the result to the outside world. There are components that collectively perform that operations, input and output, okay, are called I/O subsystem. Here, I/O subsystem of a computer provides an efficient mode of communication between the central system and the outside environment. Okay, for the central components of the computer to perform its operations, it has to communicate with the outside environment. So I/O subsystem, collectively the components that forms the input and output, okay, are called I/O subsystem. It provides an efficient mode of communication between the central system and the outside environment. It handles all the input-output operations of the computer system. Okay. This I/O subsystem includes all the input-output devices that are used to provide input to the computer, to the internal components of the system, and that are used to show the result. So that is one of the components of this I/O subsystem. And the other component is the interface, okay, the interface that connects the I/O devices to the internal components of the system. Okay, so these are all the components that make up the I/O subsystem. The peripheral devices, all the input-output devices, okay, that are used to give input to the computer, provide input to the computer from the outside environment, and to transfer the result from the computer to the user. Okay, all these devices are the peripheral devices. These devices are designed to read information into or out of the memory unit upon command from the CPU, and are considered to be the part of the computer system. Okay, so all the input-output devices are called peripheral devices. There are three types of peripherals. First one is input peripherals. What are input peripherals? These peripherals allows user input from the outside world, okay, to the computer. The user can give input to the computer, okay, using these input peripherals. Examples: keyboard, okay, through which we press keys and that is entered as the input to the computer. And using mouse, the other ways of giving input, visual input. Okay, camera can be used as an input device in that case, okay, for the computer to get the visual input. And for audio input, microphone is used as the audio input. So these are all the input peripherals. And output peripherals allows information output from the computer to the outside world. The peripherals that are used to transfer the data from the computer to the outside world we call output peripherals. Example: printer, monitor. Now, whatever form the result may be, it can be printed on a sheet, or it can be displayed on the monitor. And the other output devices such as a speaker, okay, gives the audio output. Okay, is the output device used there is speakers. And input-output peripherals. The third type is input-output peripheral. This allows both input as well as output. Okay, some devices are used to, the single device can be used to give input and output. Example: touch screen. Monitors are called as output device, but nowadays we are using touch screen devices. So touch input. Okay, by touch, we can give the input to the computer. Screen monitors are also act as output device by showing the result. So this way, input output, even the computers that have the speakers with built-in microphones. Through the microphone, audio input is taken, and through the speaker, audio output is given. Okay, so the devices that act as input and output are called input-output peripherals. Okay, so these are all the devices, input and output devices that are connected to the computer to communicate to the internal components of the computer are called peripheral devices. There are input peripherals, output peripherals, and input-output peripherals. And the other component of the I/O subsystem, okay, is I/O interface. The peripherals, all the I/O components together, we call I/O peripherals. And for these peripherals, okay, the I/O devices to communicate to the internal components, we need the interface. Okay, interface is a shared boundary between two separate components of the computer system, which can be used to connect two or more components to the system for communication purposes. So to connect these input-output devices, to connect these peripherals to the internal components of the system, the communication interface, the component that comes in between, that connects both the internal components and the external components is called the interface. Okay, for the internal components of the system to communicate to the outside world, okay, through the input-output devices, we need the interface. Okay, it is a boundary between these two internal and external components. Okay, this interface provides a method for transferring information between internal storage and external I/O devices. The I/O devices cannot directly communicate with the CPU. Okay, so here we have, in the diagram, we have our input-output devices, the peripherals, and the internal devices. CPU is an internal device and memory. Okay, through the system bus, this is connected. The input-output device is connected to the CPU and memory through the system bus. And what comes in between is the I/O interface unit. Okay, this input-output devices cannot be directly connected to the internal components of the system. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why. There are some differences how these input-output devices operate and how the internal components operate. What all these differences? The peripherals are electromechanical and electromagnetic devices, and their manner of operation is different from the operation of the CPU and memory, which are the internal components, okay, the CPU and memory, which are electronic devices. Okay, these are electromagnetic devices, the input-output devices. So the manner of operation is different from the electronic devices, such as the CPU and memory. So the signal conversion is needed. Okay, conversion of signal from electromagnetic waves to these electronic signals. Okay, so we need a device. Okay, we need a component in between these two different type of operating devices. Okay, I/O devices and the internal devices, the electromagnetic devices and the electronic devices for the conversion of the signals. Okay, that is one of the need for using the interface between the input-output devices and the other devices. And the other differences, the data transfer rate of peripherals is slower than the transfer rate of CPU. Okay, so a synchronization mechanism is needed. So if we compare the data transfer rate, okay, if the transfer between memory and CPU would be much faster, okay, when it is compared between the other components and I/O devices. I/O devices are, the transfer rate is very slow. So that has to be synchronized, okay. So synchronization is matching the speed between the devices. Okay, matching the speed between the devices that operate in different speed, okay, various speeds. So synchronization mechanism is needed here. So when the devices that operate in different speed are connected through the interface will take care of that, okay, matching the speed between the devices. The synchronization is done by the interface. That is why we need an interface to connect these devices. Then the third point, data codes and formats in peripherals are, they differ from the word format in CPU and memory. Okay, when a data is stored in memory, we know that it is, the memory is divided into words. Okay, the number of bytes, it is specifically, fixed there. So that is we have a specific format. But when the data is transferred between the I/O devices and the internal components, the data formats is different, and the data codes, generally the input output data, okay, input data that is entered is represented in ASCII. Okay, so we need an interface. The operating modes of the peripherals are different from each other, and each must be controlled so as not to disturb the operation of other peripherals connected to the CPU. And if we take the peripherals separately, the operating modes of each peripheral are different from each other. Okay, so based on the operating modes of the peripherals, it has to be controlled. Okay, so we need an interface between the I/O device and the internal components. Here, the connection of I/O bus, how the internal components are connected to the peripherals, okay, input-output devices through the I/O bus, input-output bus, that is shown here. Here we have a set of peripherals, okay, and the interface. Each peripheral has its own interface. Okay, that is that connects the peripheral to the internal devices. So here we have 4 interfaces, and the processor, that is the internal component of the system that need to communicate to the peripherals to perform some operation. How the operation is done is, when the address is placed on the address line by the processor, the interface decode the address. Okay, address is the address of the peripherals, okay, to which the processor wants to communicate, okay, to read data or to write data into. So the particular address of the particular device, peripheral device, will be available in the address line, and the interface unit decodes the address. Okay, the address is decoded, and the interface checks if it is equal to its own address. Means every peripheral is connected through the interface. So if the address is identified as the address of the device, okay, that it is connected to, then the interface activates all the path between the CPU and that particular device, and disables all the other path between the processor and all the other devices. Okay, so this is address, identification of address. So the interface decodes it and finds if address. The interface disable all the other lines, okay, and only the line between that particular device, peripheral device, and the processor is enabled, so that communication can happen. And once the address is identified, once the device is identified, the data is placed on the data line, and the control information, okay, that is the IO command, okay, what is the operation to be performed, that is also placed on the control lines. The IO bus has these 3 lines: data lines, address lines, and control lines. Address information will be available in the address line. Yes, once the address is decoded and the device is identified, the data, okay, that is to be transmitted to the device is placed on the data bus, and the control information, okay, the command, IO command, is placed on the control bus, okay, so that the communication can happen between the devices. So the operations performed here are, okay, for the internal component to communicate to the IO device. IO buses attached to all peripherals. The IO bus that has data bus, address bus, and control bus, okay, control lines. These are connected to all peripherals, and interface monitors the address on the address bus. When the interface detects its own address, it activates path between the bus line and device that it controls. And all the other devices are disabled by their interfaces. Okay, once the address is identified by a particular interface that it is its own address, okay, it enables the path between the CPU and its device, okay, the device, peripheral device that it is connected to, and all the other interfaces disable their path, okay, between the path between their devices, the IO device and the CPU. Data to read or write is made available in the data bus. IO command is made available in the control bus. So when we see this IO command, okay, the CPU, the processor places the IO command. Okay, the function, IO command is the function code. What is the code that specifies what is the function to be performed, okay, on the IO device, on the selected device. So there are 4 types of IO commands. The first one is control command. Control command is issued to activate the peripheral and to inform it what to do. Okay, so here the control is these are all the IO commands. The different IO commands given are control command, status command, output data command, and input data command. Control command is to tell the peripheral what to do. But this control command depends on the operation that the device performs. Okay, different devices perform different operation. Example, if we take a printer, what is the operation? It is to print the data on the paper. So it has to the operating modes. It may be in a initially initiating mode. Okay, the cartridge has to set its position and then moving from left to right. So these are all the different modes through which the combining operations finally prints the data on the paper. And the second IO command is status command. It is used to test various status conditions in the interface and the peripherals. Okay, so before the CPU want to communicate, okay, or to read some data from some IO device. Okay, so before reading, it has to check if the data is available, if the device is ready to transmit data. And before sending data, if the processor want to send data, okay, give a command to send output. So that case, it has to check the status of the peripheral. And output data command. This causes the interface to respond by transferring data from the bus into one of its registers. Okay, output data. So it is to transfer data from the internal component to the output device. So when the internal component want to transmit data, it places the output on the IO bus, right? And the interface need to transfer the data into its registers. Output data command. Okay, when the command given by the CPU is output data command, means there is some output that is to be transferred to the output device. Okay, so the interface transfer the data that is available on the bus to one of its register, okay, to transfer it to the output device. And input data command. If the CPU gives a command, the command given by the CPU is input data command. That means there is some input data that is need to be taken into the internal components. So the interface receives data from the peripheral and places it in its buffer register. Why the interface does not place the data directly onto the bus? It has to be, right, it has to be converted into the desired format, into the needed format by the internal devices. So this input, when the command is input data command, the interface transfer the data from the peripheral to its buffer register. Okay, and after decoding, after converting the data into the required format, it will transfer, it will place the data onto the bus for the internal components to receive. So these are all the different IO commands. The IO command, what we discussed here, that is the IO command that is placed on the control bus. Yeah, we have seen that the IO bus that connects the internal components to the input-output devices. This connection is done through the interface, correct? Okay, this is the interface component that connects the IO devices to the internal system. The IO bus consists of data lines, address lines, and control lines. How the communication between the internal and internal components and the IO devices are done. IO bus is attached to all the peripherals. Interface monitors the address on the address bus. Okay, when the address is placed on the address bus, the interface monitors and it decodes the address and finds the peripheral device that has the same address. Okay, so when the device is identified, when the peripheral device to which the CPU wants to, the processor want to communicate, when it is identified, the processor places the IO command. Okay, what is the operation now to be performed with the IO device, with this identified device? So that is IO command. Okay, it places the IO command and the data. If it is to input data, the interface will take the data from the IO device and it places it on the IO bus. Correct. Okay, so based on the operation, okay, given the IO command given by the processor, the data is placed on the IO bus. Okay, so it is either read or written. So these are the steps, these are the operations. IO bus is attached to the peripherals, interface monitors the address. When the interface detects its address, it activates the path between the bus line and the device that it controls. Okay, all the other devices are disabled by the interfaces. And now data to read or write is made available in the data bus. Then IO command is made available in the control bus. So what is this IO command? Okay, there are 4 types of IO command. Control command that tells the peripheral what to do. Okay, what is the operation it has to do. And status command, it is to check the status of the peripherals before performing some operation. Before reading or writing, the processor checks if the device is ready to send or read or write. And output data command. This command, okay, from the processor is to send the output, okay, to the output device. So this causes the interface to respond by transfer the data from the bus into one of its register. So to output the data from the internal system to the output device, it has to read the data from the bus. The interface will read the data from the bus and place it in its register. Okay, and input data command. When the command given is input data command, it receives the input from the peripherals. The interface will receive the data from the peripheral and places it in its register. Okay. Now, IO versus memory bus. We learned about IO bus. It has data lines, address lines, and control lines. Like IO bus, memory bus also contains data, address, and control lines. Okay, the same way for communication between the processor and the memory. Okay, we need memory lines that contains, memory bus contains data lines, address lines, and control lines. There are 3 ways in which the computer bus communicates with memory and IO. Okay, for the communication, for the computer to communicate with IO and memory, okay, there are 3 ways of communication. First one is use 2 separate buses. Okay, one for memory. This is for the processor, okay, for the computer processor to communicate to memory and IO. Okay, IO device. It may be the processor, there may be 2 separate lines, 2 separate buses, one for memory and the other for IO. This is one way. The computer may have 2 separate buses. One bus that connects the processor and memory, and the other bus that connects the processor and I/O device. Okay, and the second way to connect these components are use one common bus for both memory and I/O. Okay, instead of having two separate lines, one bus is used, one common bus for both memory and I/O, but have separate control lines for each. For the processor to communicate to memory and I/O device, there is a common line, but the operations are controlled. When it is to communicate with memory, the memory control is given. Okay, memory read and write, that is enabled, that control is enabled. So that time I/O device cannot communicate, the processor cannot communicate with the I/O device. The common bus is used, but it is to communicate to two different devices. So that is controlled by the control lines. Okay, two separate control lines are used. And the third way is use one common bus for memory and I/O with common control lines. Okay, one common bus and control lines are also common. Okay, the first way is to use two separate buses, one for memory and the other for I/O. So the line that connects memory and processor always meant for transferring data between processor and memory. And the lines, the buses that connect the processor and I/O devices is meant only for that transfer. Okay. And the second way is use one common bus for both memory and I/O. As one common bus is used, we need two separate control lines. Okay, the two separate control lines controls the operations. That is one way. And the other way is use a common bus with common control lines. In the first method, CPU has independent set of buses for both memory and I/O. Okay, two separate lines are used. So it is done in computers that has separate input-output processor and CPU. Okay, when the computer has separate input-output processor and CPU, this having two separate lines for connecting the memory, the processor to memory and to I/O device, okay, can be done. And the second method, okay, in this method, the computers use common bus to transfer data between I/O and memory and CPU. And it uses a common bus, but separate read-write lines. Okay, I/O read-write is enabled during I/O transfer. Okay, when there is a transfer between the processor and I/O device, I/O read-write is enabled, and memory read-write is enabled during memory transfer. Okay, as there is a common line, the transfer between the devices, okay, the processor and the other two devices are controlled by these control lines. I/O read-write is enabled during I/O transfer, memory read-write is enabled during memory transfer. Okay, so by this control lines, okay, here this configuration isolates the I/O device from the memory addresses. Okay, so it is this configuration is referred to as isolated I/O method. Okay, because here, even though the computers use common bus, the transfer is separated, right? When the transfer has to happen, it is isolated by these control lines. I/O read-write is enabled during I/O transfer, and memory read-write is enabled during memory transfer. Okay, so this way the devices are isolated. So this is called isolated method. Okay, isolated I/O method. And the third configuration, use one common bus for memory and I/O with common control lines. In this method, same address space is used for both memory and I/O. They have only one set of read-write signals. Okay, in the earlier case, second case, we had two read-write signals. Okay, one for I/O that is enabled during I/O transfer, and memory read-write signals are enabled during memory transfer. Here, one set of read-write signals. Okay, as these are mapped, memory and I/O, this configuration is referred to as memory mapped I/O. There is no way to separate. Correct? A single bus is used and there is a single control line. Okay, so this type of configuration is called memory mapped I/O. Have you understood this? So here in this input-output organization, we learned about IO subsystem. Okay, IO subsystem consists of the input-output devices and the interface, okay, that connects these input-output devices to the internal components of the system. For the internal computer to operate, it need to communicate to the outside environment. The devices used for this, okay, for the computer to communicate to the outside world are IO devices. So these devices, to connect these devices are different from the other internal components like processor and memory. So to connect these different devices to the computer, we need an interface. Okay, so this IO subsystem includes the peripherals, okay, all the IO devices and the interface that connects the IO devices to the computer. So we have seen the peripherals, all the IO devices, input peripherals, output peripherals, and input-output peripherals. Then IO interface. Okay, this is the boundary between the two components, between internal and these IO components. So here, why we need this interface unit in between these components, because these components, the internal components and the IO components are different, okay, in their operating speed. The mode of operation is different, and their the data formats used is different. Okay, so to match the speed and to convert the formats to the required format, we need a component in between that connects these components together. That is IO interface. Okay, and how it works here, how this IO bus is connected to the input-output devices through the interface we have seen. And the different IO commands and IO versus memory bus. Okay, the different configuration. Okay, the first method uses two separate buses, one for memory and the other bus for IO. Okay, so it is done in the computers that separately have input-output processor and central processing unit. Okay, and the second configuration uses a common bus but two control signals. Okay, so the operations can be controlled by the control signals. These control signals isolate the devices. Okay, so here we call this configuration isolates the IO interface address from the memory address. Okay, so it is referred to as isolated IO. And the third configuration uses the same address lines and same control lines. Okay, we call it as memory mapped IO.